Brought to you by Penguin.
The Shame Machine: Who Profits in the New Age of Humiliation, by Cathy O'Neil with Stephen Baker. This is the author, Cathy O'Neil. This book is dedicated to everyone trying to do better. Introduction. Tell friends that you're researching a book about shame, and you'll hear the saddest stories. This has been my life for the last few years. I've heard about every shade and flavor of it: zit shame, sex shame, math shame, dark memories dredged up from the high school locker room, humiliations at the hands of camp counselors, doctors, star quarterbacks. They flow together in my mind into an enormous, communal underground pool of dread and pain, much of it brutal. It's hard to look at and even harder to make sense of. But one evening, when the subject of shame came up, a friend of mine who's an art history professor offered something entirely new. "Have you ever heard of the Pueblo Clown Society?" she asked. I hadn't. And so she told me about a shaming ritual in the Pueblo nations in New Mexico and Arizona. In one case she described, clowns' bodies are painted with black and white stripes made from clay. Their hair, parted in the center, is bound in two bunches, which stand upright on each side of their head and are also encased in clay. The headpieces are trimmed with corn husks. These rituals have many layers of meaning, she explained. They're tied to religion. And it's such a sensitive subject that participants are discouraged from discussing it with outsiders. I followed up with Peter Whiteley. He's the curator of North American ethnology at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, and much of his anthropological research has focused on the traditions of the Hopi. This tribe has lived in northeastern Arizona for a millennium in fixed settlements, which is why the Spaniards, when they arrived in the 16th century, included the Hopi as one of the peoples they called Pueblo, the Spanish word for town. The function of the shame clowns, Whiteley says, is to reinforce the norms and ethical standards of the community. In seasonal ceremonies, which extend over 2 days, the clowns dressed in clay-striped costumes perform in a plaza surrounded by community members. The premise is that they are children of the sun, who come into the ceremony with no knowledge of society or human morality. In some of their early skits, they seem depraved, shattering the rules of decency and decorum. They eat filth from the ground, steal from one another, simulate sex. Since they don't know the rules, anything goes. But over the following day and a half, their understanding advances, and they seem to acquire the basics of ethical behavior. In short, they are taught to be more Hopi. In the process, they teach people about what's acceptable, what isn't. They are the great commentators of the world, says Whiteley. They call out transgressive behavior, and for this they employ shame. In one ceremony Whiteley recalls from the 1990s, the clowns acted like comical drunks, staggering and throwing bottles around as they ridiculed a bootlegger, a man known as Cricket, who was selling liquor within the community, which violated an established rule. The alcohol he supplied was a poison developed by outsiders, and it endangered the health of the tribe. The shaming Cricket received was intense, Whiteley says. He must have had pretty thick skin. It sent a sharp message not only to him, but to the entire group. Someone thinking about bootlegging would now think twice. The clown's shaming of community members doesn't end with the laughs and jibes. Later in the ceremony, both the clowns and their shamed targets can receive formal forgiveness. With that, the shamed return to the tribe in good standing, though always aware that the others will be keeping an eye on them. A day or two of ridicule and then redemption. This was pretty tame stuff compared to the dark and painful stories I'd been hearing about. And, next to my own lifelong battle with fat shame, it seemed like coaxing rather than bullying. The Hopi ceremony, as Whiteley described it, doesn't tell the transgressors that they're bad people or losers, only that they need to make a course correction. How the Pueblo clowns taunt their targets tells us something about the role of shame in society. It can be healthy, even kind, once you get past its sharp edges. To understand what's so healthy about it, let's take a look at an altogether different variety. Ever heard of bingo wings? The term comes from Britain, where bingo is an after-dinner staple in retirement homes. When a woman wins, she'll shout, "Bingo!" Raising her winning card high, she typically waves it eagerly, and this is where the scrutiny begins. Her movements draw attention to her arm, especially the upper part of it, where, in many cases, a jiggling pocket of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?